Last week I received a call from an unknown caller. My first thought was that someone wants to sell me anything or something like that. Normally I wouldn't answer, but I was bored and thought I might prank the other person. A male voice that didn't sound familiar to me said, "You proved that you're a real fighter. You didn't let life defeat you. I will call you again in a week, and then it will start." I thought nothing about it, and I assumed it was a harmless joke. Until yesterday, when a week passed by. I was on my way to a job interview and was waiting at a bus stop for the bus, which was already in sight but stood in front of a red traffic light. My phone started to ring, and again it's from an unknown caller. This time I didn't want to answer, but all of a sudden this guy who was sitting at the bus stop said, "Didn't he mention he would call you again?" At first I thought he was on the phone because he had AirPods inside of his ears, but then he looked straight in my direction and asked, "Don't you want to answer?" I asked him what he means, but he didn't answer me. Then my bus arrived. I was in a hurry, so I just got on and left. I did my job interview and went home, and I haven't left my apartment since. Sometimes I look out of the windows to see if anything or anyone seems strange to me, but so far I haven't noticed anything. There have been no further calls. I'm a bit scared now, and I don't know what I should do about it. What do you think about all of this? Where I work, there's a closed, old, locked psych unit on the 11th floor. It's occasionally used for overflow patients and staffed by float pool when needed. Working night shift, I had a patient ask during night med pass if I could ask housekeeping to not empty her trash can in the middle of the night, as it woke her up the night before. I thought, weird, but okay. I called housekeeping, and they said they don't have anyone cleaning on nights on the overflow unit. This patient was fully oriented, walkie-talkie, not weird at all, not a sundowner in any way whatsoever. 3 a.m. rolls around, and the patient rings her call bell, and as I'm walking down the hall to her room, the double doors, that's locked and requires a badge swipe, closes. I answered her bell, and she's mad because she asked for housekeeping not to come in, and they did. She said they emptied her trash, and she heard the can open and the trash bag rustle. I profusely apologize and insist it won't happen again. I call housekeeping again, who stated they don't have someone covering our floor at night because it's just an overflow unit. So I call security since the doors are badge access only. They pulled up the badge swipe logs for the doors, and no one had accessed the doors after the kitchen staff picked up the dirty trays at 9 p.m. They pulled footage of the whole corridor and can clearly see the doors open halfway, close, and not a single person in sight. We still have no explanation to this day, and it's just well known that the 11th floor is haunted. Apparently it was making the psych patients go crazier, and they moved the unit to a new wing of the hospital, and now only use this floor for short-term overflow. This happened around 2021 in India, around the pandemic period where lockdowns were still very much in effect. My dad used to live in another city, my brother was in college, and my mom had a government job, so she had to go to her office every day. So I was basically left alone from 10 a.m. to around 6 p.m. We used to live in an apartment unit, but it had 2 doors. One was the main door, and the other one was located in the biggest bedroom, basically my parents' room. The door was clearly locked with an actual lock from the outside, and it also had a metal sliding door, the kind with the chain structure. I'm from India, so you can Google elevators to find out what I'm talking about. And it was also locked from the outside. We had a ring bell on the outside, but it was just connected to a small bulb in the bedroom. So one day, around 12 p.m., I was in my room, which was basically adjacent to my parents' room, and I felt weird, so I just went to check their room. I went to the room to see the bulb blinking. That meant that someone was ringing the doorbell. My mom used to say ignore it, because if it was someone we knew ringing it, they would know the real door. I stood there for a moment when the person started knocking really hard on the door. It was straight up rattling. But the thing was, due to the metal gate in front of it, it would be very hard to put your hand inside to knock at the actual door. Even I couldn't put more than half of my palm through. I was a teen back then, so I wasn't that big, and this man was straight up banging on it. I got scared and called my mom. She told me not to panic, but I was really weirded out. So I locked my parents' door with the lock they had, and I went downstairs to chill in my brother's room. It was one of those days where my mom wouldn't be home until like 8 p.m., so I was alone for a long time. I was too scared to go upstairs. At around 6 p.m., our helper auntie came, and I was a little better that someone else was in the house. And during that time, I used to take private tuition, and my teacher used to come around at 7:30 p.m. I felt a bit better knowing that I'd have people around. Our main door had a big window just beside it, so whenever someone was at the door, we used to open the window to check who was there before opening it. But Auntie had a habit of opening it without checking. Fortunately that day, when the doorbell rang, she opened the window, and then she came to my brother's room to tell me I had a cake delivery. Thing was, I didn't, obviously, so I went to check through the window. There was a man with a cap hiding his face, holding a very small box. Now, a cake box is usually square and big, right? Even a pound cake has a big-ass box. And in India, we have a very small sweet box. So imagine a 100-gram sweet box being called cake box. And I asked him who the delivery was for. He didn't give me any name, not even of the company. He just told me it was for our flat. I called my mom and asked if she had made the delivery, and she didn't know what I was talking about. The guy just wanted me to accept the box and open the door, and just by chance, my teacher walked up the stairs and asked what was happening. The guy saw my teacher and ran up the stairs. I then let my teacher in. Later, when my mom inquired about the delivery guy coming to our flat with our security guard, he said he wasn't there at his post for around half an hour when it happened. The building where we lived didn't have CCTV, and no one saw him. I guess it might not be that scary, but it did shake me up, and I asked my mom to at least hurry up from her office the next day, and I stopped staying upstairs whenever I was home alone.